Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Chi. Luo Feng's speed was very fast. Although he was a human, with the emergence of the evolution potion, the strength of the user would also be improved by different degrees with different doses. Especially by devouring prey, the speed of evolution would be faster. Luo Feng, when he attacked, that blade light was at least 10 times the speed of sound. Chi. The terrifying edge of the blade directly turned into the sound of tearing through the air. It was as if even the air had been cut open by him. End quote. Every living being has their own potential. Even such a weak human can display such incredible power after evolution. However, it's a pity that no matter how strong they are, they will never be able to surpass me. End quote. Yi Bei watched quietly. Luo Feng's body was only the size of a normal human. When faced with a giant elephant, he was as small as an ant. Yi Bei wanted to see with his own eyes, at a close distance, how this fellow, who had created miracles time and time again, had killed an elephant. Buzz. Walalala. The blade light appeared. The giant elephant, which had been ignoring everything and rampaging, finally stopped. A sense of danger immediately appeared in his heart. This was the instinct of a living creature. However, the impact just now was too strong. When he stopped, his body was still sliding for several hundred meters, and the debris on the ground was uncountable. Who dares to block my way? The giant elephant roared with a majestic voice. The shattered rocks on the ground were sent flying in all directions along with the roar. It was as if they had entered a mythological era. However, as the creatures of the major races were evolving crazily, powerful battles were common. Not many creatures would marvel at this power anymore. They seemed to have become used to it. A beast dares to call himself master? Dida. He held a long saber in his hand. Luo Feng was very courageous. He stepped on the broken rocks and made a da-da sound. Then, the small figure appeared about 1,000 meters in front of the giant elephant. This scene was quite comical. However, at this time, countless creatures in Doomsday City hid again. Many creatures that were planning to attack the giant elephant also went into hiding. That human was Luo Feng. He was already famous in Doomsday City. When his small body faced the giant elephant, no creature wanted to mock him. Even Yi Bei, who was hiding in the dark. When he saw this scene, he looked on with interest. I have to admit that some humans are indeed very strong. In fact, any living creature can do this. Their own genes can break through the limits of the genetic constraint. It's just like there was once news in the human world that an old grandma lifted a car with her bare hands. 100-meter sprint, picking up a baby that fell from a highway. If I'm not wrong, after Luo Feng obtained the evolution drug, after the battle in Doomsday City, he even evolved his genetic chain a few times. As he observed, Yi Bei couldn't help but analyze the situation. But of course, during this period of time, he had also seen this situation many times. It was not something that humans could break through. There were some ultimate powerhouses rising up from all the major races. As the number of such creatures increased, Yi Bei increasingly felt that the most primitive creatures on Earth weren't simple. However, with the information Yi Bei had obtained so far, he still couldn't figure out what the truth was. However, just as Yi Bei was deep in thought, the battle between the elephant and Luo Feng quickly unfolded. Damn human ant, I'll let you taste my power. The giant elephant roared. All the strength in his body was concentrated in his four limbs. And NBSB, Hong Long Long. That terrifying power was once again displayed. Even though its body was huge, its speed and agility didn't slow down at all. One of its legs stomped towards Luo Feng. This kick carried an unprecedented amount of power. Even a mountain peak could be instantly flattened by him, and even caved in. In the vicinity, some of the creatures who were trying to attack the elephant felt the aura and fled in all directions with fear in their eyes. They didn't dare to stay at the side for fear of being affected. This kick, the heavens fell and the earth cracked. Even Yi Bei, who was hiding in the dark, could vaguely sense a terrifying power. But Luo Feng was extremely calm even when facing such an attack. Chi. His eyes narrowed. A terrifying killing intent burst out from his eyes like a sharp blade. 1,000 meters. 500 meters. 10 meters. The elephant's huge body was like a huge bulldozer, and in the blink of an eye, its huge foot was already floating above Luo Feng. This monster is still too careless. Yibei narrowed his eyes. He wasn't worried about Luo Feng at all. Instead, he stuck out his forked tongue, feeling as if the giant elephant was about to get into trouble. As expected, just as Yibei finished speaking, buzz, buzz. Without any fancy movements, two crisp sounds of blades rang out in the air. The sharp and ear-piercing sound not only shattered the space, but also the surrounding area within a radius of 10,000 meters was cut by the remaining light, revealing a clean-cut surface. Roar! The blade light hit the elephant's foot. The intense pain caused the elephant to let out a low growl. The next moment, an incredible scene appeared. Around them, the creatures that were hiding far away were even more frightened. When they looked at Luo Feng, their eyes were filled with fear. This was because one of the legs of the originally huge, indestructible elephant was actually cut off by Luo Feng with a simple strike. And NBSB, Hong Long Long. As the low growl fell, the center of the giant elephant became unstable, and the huge creature fell down with a loud bang. Hualalalala. A cloud of gray dust filled the air. Puff, 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 puff. Bright red blood flowed out of the elephant's leg, spurting everywhere on the ground, and the air was instantly filled with the warm smell of blood. And quote, "It's indeed very strong." If there's a so-called immortal cultivation race in the universe, Luo Feng might be a legendary genius that only appears once in 1,000,000 years. However, this blade light still can't cause any harm to my body. End quote. Yibei slowly analyzed the situation. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. This human Luo Feng, he had already made up his mind. He had to personally control it. Bastard, do you really think you're that strong? It's good that I haven't had meat for a few days. I'll eat your meat to satisfy my craving. Maybe your bones can be sold for a good price. It just so happens that many countries have been spending a lot of money to buy ivory recently. After cutting off the leg of the giant elephant, Luo Feng put the long blade back on his back and said slowly. At that moment, Yibei, who was hiding in the dark, moved out, making a sizzling sound. He's too strong. Humans are the lowest creatures. Even in the snake civilization, they're at the bottom. How can this guy be so strong? With just one slash, he cut off the leg of a giant mutated elephant. In the distance, a few thousand meters away, a mutated dog's eyes were filled with fear as it spoke with a trembling voice. Damn it! How would I know? Next to him, another mutated dog stuck out its tongue. He was once the most loyal friend of mankind. After all the dogs in the world had evolved and gained intelligence, they all felt deeply humiliated by that period of history. Unconsciously, they also had a great enmity towards humans. Today, after seeing a human defeat an elephant, they were naturally terrified. End quote. Let's leave this place first. At least we're not a match for that human. We'll continue to stay here. After devouring enough prey, obtaining more evolution potions, and becoming stronger, we'll kill all the humans in Doomsday City sooner or later. End quote. He threw down this sentence. Walalala. The large group of mutant dogs quickly dispersed. Let's leave this place. Let's go. End quote. That guy is Luo Feng. He's the overlord of a region in Doomsday City. He's very strong. End quote. Okay, don't provoke him in the future. Let's leave first. Around them, the creatures of the various major races began to speak. Roar, roar. As for the elephant on the ground, it kept growling, but the intense pain in its leg made it unable to stand up at all. Its eyes were completely filled with fear. Before coming to Doomsday City, this giant elephant had publicly announced on the SS website that it would come and raise everything here. At that time, he was extremely confident. However, today, he had just arrived in Doomsday City and was defeated in less than 10 minutes. This was something that he had never expected. Bastard, you ant, I won't let you go. The roars continued. The giant elephant on the ground continued to threaten him. And at this time, the leg that had been cut off also began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. After countless evolutions, almost all the creatures on Earth had the ability to heal themselves. Is that so? Then I'd like to see who will die first. Luo Feng's voice was cold. Tap, tap, tap. As he spoke, he slowly walked towards the elephant's head. The surrounding creatures that were about to leave all stopped when they saw this. They wanted to see how Luo Feng would deal with the giant elephant. MMH. Perhaps the scene would be very cruel. However, as long as the creatures that came to Doomsday City were still alive, which one of them did not have more than 10 lives in their hands? 1 second, 2 seconds. Luo Feng's speed wasn't fast. However, every step he took made the elephant's fear deepen. When he was less than 10 meters away from the elephant's head, the elephant's body began to tremble slightly. In the face of death, no living creature could truly accept it calmly. Buzz. He drew the long blade on his back. Roar. The giant elephant let out a low growl and was about to beg for mercy. Stop. However, at this moment, an extremely cold voice suddenly resounded in this silent scene. The voice wasn't loud, but all the surrounding creatures, including Luo Feng and the giant elephant, could hear it clearly. Yi Bei wasn't moving very quickly. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the 1.5-meter gray body had already appeared on the ruins. Shwa shwa shwa. Immediately after, countless eyes fell on Yi Bei. Such a small python with gray skin. It couldn't be that it hadn't evolved yet. When did this guy appear? In Doomsday City, I don't think such a low-level creature can survive for even a minute. It seems that this piece of trash doesn't know how powerful that human and elephant are. Do you think that just because you're a snake, you're really a high-level creature? Even if you want to die, you shouldn't do it like this. I'll just sit and watch him get sliced into 100,000 pieces by Luo Feng. In the distance, many creatures who were hiding in the dark said one after another. Although his voice was very arrogant, no living creature dared to come out. When they looked at Yi Bei, there was a hint of fear in the depths of their eyes. Although Doomsday City was a city where one could kill as they pleased, and there were no laws here, only the strong and the weak, snakes were still treated very well here. Generally speaking, no living creature would take the initiative to provoke a snake. Yi Bei could hear the voices around him very clearly. However, he didn't have any intention of making a fuss about it. Instead, he focused his attention on Luo Feng. End quote. Human, you have great potential. You were able to rely on the evolution potion to strengthen your body to this extent. If I'm not wrong, you've also undergone many changes in the genetic level, right? Chi. Yi Bei flicked his forked tongue as he moved in front of Luo Feng and spoke calmly. There was no change in his expression. At first, Luo Feng didn't pay any attention to Yi Bei, but after hearing Yi Bei's words and seeing Yi Bei's extremely calm gaze, Luo Feng felt that something was off. However, after some careful observation, he was certain that Yi Bei was just an ordinary python. What a strange feeling, Luo Feng thought to himself. At the same time, he was shocked by Yi Bei's words. However, on the surface, Luo Feng remained calm. So what if I am? So what if I am not? Little python, could it be that you're not afraid that I'll kill you? Also, what did you mean by those words you said? End quote. Well, the meaning is actually very simple. In the future, you will follow me. End quote. Be my servant. Chi. Sticking out his scarlet forked tongue, Yi Bei's voice was cold and devoid of any emotion. But after he said this, the surrounding air instantly became countless times colder. The creatures of the major races hiding in the dark all widened their eyes. Luo Feng's body exploded with an unprecedented killing intent. Roar, roar, roar. However, at this moment, the severed leg of the elephant that had fallen to the ground grew back, and it let out a terrifying roar. Boom. The next second, that mountain-like body, with a loud boom, stood up steadily again. Its eyes were bloodshot. It broke the ice-cold aura around them. Damn, Dad, you've completely infuriated me. Then, without holding back, it attacked Luo Feng and Yi Bei. In the surroundings, the creatures that were hiding in the dark and watching widened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with gloating. That human definitely won't die. End quote, of course. However, I can't be sure about that python. The ignorant are truly fearless. End quote. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. He'll probably be stomped into a pile of meat paste. I can guarantee with that the snake will definitely not survive. The discussion had just started. Boom. A muffled sound immediately exploded in the air. Boom. The sound was so loud that the entire Doomsday City seemed to be shaking. My ears. Quickly run. Don't get caught up in it, or we'll be finished. All the weaker creatures in the surroundings screamed in pain. They wished they could grow 100 legs so that they could run as fast as they could. However, there were also some powerful beings who didn't move at all, but their eyes were filled with endless fear. Whoosh. Furthermore, the moment the loud sound was heard, Luo Feng's body moved. He immediately turned into a black shadow and flashed 1,000 meters away. Before the loud boom, Luo Feng's eyes were filled with suspicion and he frowned. End quote. This gray snake is too arrogant. But this time, he's definitely going to die? End quote. Luo Feng's eyes couldn't help but widen the next second. Boom, boom, boom. The loud noise continued. However, the final outcome wasn't what Luo Feng had imagined. When the giant foot stepped on Yi Bei, the next moment, before Luo Feng could even see what had happened, the giant elephant, which was as big as a mountain, was sent flying. Yes, that huge body. He didn't know how many tons of body it had. He was sent flying. He flew more than 1,000 meters away and fell hard on the ground. The rumbling sound was from his fall. Did I see it wrong? In the dark, a mutated wild boar stretched out its hoof and rubbed its eyes hard. Its voice was full of disbelief, and its logic had completely collapsed. Maybe it was that human who did it. At the side, another mutant pig immediately spoke up. End quote. That's impossible. I saw it clearly. The human jumped away when the elephant stepped on him, but the snake was still there. End quote. His voice was trembling. Are you all idiots? Can't you see it now? The snake is still there where the elephant stepped. Until such a sentence appeared. Shwa shwa shwa. Immediately, countless pairs of eyes fell on Yi Bei. That's right. Yi Bei was still sitting in his original spot, not moving at all. But just based on this scene, it was enough to confirm that he was definitely the one who had made a move just now. This snake. Yes, this is the snake. So strong. Who is it? I've never heard of it in Doomsday City before. End quote. That poor elephant was trying to act tough in Doomsday City, but it was knocked down by the human before it could even do so. By the time it reacted, it was sent flying by a python. Its huge body fell to the ground, and it was in so much pain that it couldn't stand up. It's really pitiful. End quote. Be quiet. That snake seems to want to continue talking. After coming back to their senses, the creatures in the dark could no longer remain calm and began to discuss wildly. Buzz. Buzz. The frenzied voices were all transmitted to the center of the battlefield. Yi Bei continued to ignore those people. Once again, he looked at Luo Feng. At this moment, Luo Feng's mouth was wide open, his body was trembling, his eyes were wide open. Ever since he had obtained the evolution drug and obtained unparalleled strength, he had always felt that he was extremely strong, and no living being could harm him. But when he met Yi Bei's eyes, he hesitated. All of the contempt they had for Yi Bei before had now turned into an unfathomable sense of power. Luo Feng didn't say anything. He just watched quietly. Buzz. Buzz. After easily dealing with the giant elephant, Yi Bei once again turned his attention to Luo Feng. His gaze was deep, and no killing intent could be felt from his body. Luo Feng right. End quote. I'm sorry, Yi Bei said again. End quote. Perhaps I didn't make myself clear just now. I didn't come here to discuss this with you. I'm ordering you to be my servant. End quote. After saying this, Yi Bei looked at Luo Feng with interest. He wanted to see what kind of choice this human would make. Anger, confusion, hesitation, determination, killing intent. In a short second, Luo Feng's emotions kept changing. However, to other creatures, Luo Feng was extremely calm and didn't show any signs of change. I have to say that you are very strong, but no living thing is allowed to command me. This is very annoying. Do you really think that you are invincible after defeating an animal like the elephant? Buzz. The moment he finished speaking, the long blade on his back emitted a cold light, then landed firmly in Luo Feng's hand. Asterisk whoosh asterisk. Immediately after, Luo Feng turned into a black shadow and charged toward Yi Bei without hesitation. You didn't dodge, just watching quietly. You're dead. When Luo Feng saw this, he thought that Yi Bei had been frightened. His expression relaxed a little, and he let out a low growl. In the dark, the surrounding creatures were puzzled when they saw this. Why didn't you dodge? And quote, that shouldn't be. Could it be that this snake is scared stiff? And quote, there's another possibility. It wasn't the snake that sent the elephant flying, but the human who attacked the moment he dodged. From the beginning, the snake was just scared silly. End quote. So that's how it is, I knew it. In the dark, many such voices sounded. However, these voices were quickly swallowed back down by these people. Buzz. A crisp sound was heard, as if metal had hit another piece of hard metal. The speed was too fast. Accompanied by a loud bang, the saber light struck Yi Bei's body in the blink of an eye. Clang. Unfortunately, it wasn't the result that Luo Feng and the surrounding creatures had expected. When the long saber, which could even cut off a giant elephant's leg, landed on Yi Bei's body, a surprising scene appeared. With a clang, the long saber was directly broken into two. As for Yi Bei, who was crouched on the ground, he didn't move an inch. There wasn't even a single mark on his extremely ordinary-looking skin. How is that possible? In the dark, the spectating creatures were all dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. As for Luo Feng, if he was very confident just now, then his eyes finally revealed an unprecedented fear. End quote. Your strength is not bad, but it's a pity that you're still too weak. I can't feel anything at all. It seems that you still don't realize your situation. Let me try to attack you. End quote. Yi Bei squinted his eyes and stuck out his tongue. As he spoke, his body slowly moved toward Luo Feng. The speed was very slow. It was much slower than the normal speed. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. However, it was this speed that gave Luo Feng a terrifying feeling. No matter what technique he used, he couldn't dodge Yi Bei's attack. At this moment, in the dark, a mutated monkey's pupils suddenly shrank, as if it had thought of something extremely terrifying. It stretched out its hand and pointed at Yi Bei, its voice trembling. And quote, I know who he is. Bang, bang. Before he could finish speaking, Yi Bei had already launched an attack. Eastern Sea, Doomsday City. In one of them, roar, an elephant that was more than 200 meters tall, like a mountain, fell to the ground. Its mouth, nose, and even the corners of its eyes were all filled with blood. It kept growling, but no matter how much strength it used, it could not move an inch. Damn it, how can I lose so easily? He tried hard to stand up, but it was no use. Is it that snake? What is he thought. He continued to roar and tried his best to stand up, but his body seemed to have lost all strength. Don't tell me. Just as the elephant was in despair, a cold light suddenly flashed through its mind. Then, its already large eyes widened even more. Its blood-red eyes were instantly filled with fear. Bang, bang. On the other side, when Yi Bei moved in front of Luo Feng, the tail only moved slightly. Boom, boom. An unprecedented force was applied to Luo Feng's body. The latter could not even dodge, and his entire body was sent flying before he fell to the ground with a loud bang. And at this moment, the mutated monkey that was hiding in the dark finally stopped speaking. He's the snake god. The Naga god has the ability to change his size and even his body shape. Only he can send the giant elephant flying with a single strike, and only he can appear in Doomsday City as if nothing happened. The sound stunned all the creatures. After that, without exception, all the living beings had fear and respect in their eyes. The incomparably powerful Luo Feng just now. After being sent flying by Yi Bei, he felt pain all over his body, and he couldn't exert any strength. When he heard the sounds around him, his originally extremely angry state of mind instantly fell to the bottom. When he fell to the ground, his eyes were full of fear and panic. Snake God. Was this the power of the serpent god? During this period of evolution, other than becoming stronger, Luo Feng also had absolute confidence in his own strength. In fact, there were many times when he had even fantasized about finding an opportunity to challenge Yi Bei, who was entrenched in the core of Doomsday City. If he won, he would definitely be able to restore mankind to its glorious era. But now, he felt as if a glass door in his body had shattered into pieces. Now that he was facing Yi Bei in person, he could no longer muster up any will to fight. You're the snake god? Cough, cough. He fell to the ground and coughed. Dark red blood fell to the ground. He was recognized so quickly? Yi Bei was a little surprised, but very quickly, he felt relieved. Times were different now. After the evolution potion had fully covered the Earth, the intelligence of all living creatures on Earth had skyrocketed, far surpassing that of humans in the past. If he continued to remain undiscovered, that would be a problem. That's me. Leave with me now. Yi Bei nodded. He didn't waste time talking. Chi. After he finished speaking, a distorted space appeared before him. In the next second, Luo Feng, who was coughing and struggling on the ground, was instantly sucked into the whirlpool space. The surrounding creatures who were watching. Before this, he was still very afraid. But when they saw this, there was only fanaticism and envy in their eyes. To be able to catch Yi Bei's eye was definitely the greatest honor of their lives. It was the most typical example of reaching the heavens in one step. Walala. Hence, some of the creatures could no longer hold it in. They rushed out of the shadows and desperately rushed towards Yi Bei. Plop, plop, plop. In less than a minute, Yi Bei was surrounded by a dense mass of creatures kneeling on the ground. There were no less than 1,000 of them, and the entire Doomsday City had been alarmed. Countless more creatures were rushing over. Snake God, can I be your servant too? And quote, I'm very good at fighting, Snake God. As long as you can make me your servant, I'll do anything. And quote, me. I'm very famous in Doomsday City. Snake God, please take me in. Those guys who were usually fiendish in Doomsday City were kneeling in front of a small python, crazily begging. It was a spectacular sight. Shwa shwa shwa. However, Yi Bei simply swept his gaze over these people, and there was no change in his eyes. Doomsday City is a good place. Here, you can release the evil in your hearts without any restraint, and you can also become stronger through your own efforts. All creatures of the snake civilization are my people. Of course, if you want to become my servant, then continue to work hard to become stronger. When the time is right, I'll come here again to select new servants. Chi. Yi Bei flicked out his forked tongue as he calmly spat out these words. Buzz. Buzz. Then, a distorted space appeared in front of him. In the blink of an eye, Yi Bei was sucked in. However, after Yi Bei disappeared, the entire Doomsday City became even crazier. The creatures transmitted Yi Bei's will at the fastest speed possible. Thus, extremely strange things began to happen in Doomsday City. In order to become Yi Bei's servant, countless creatures used all sorts of methods in a frenzy, all in the hopes of becoming stronger. In the Forest of Death, even though Luo Feng was injured, his recovery speed was extremely fast. Where is this place? When he entered the Forest of Death and saw the countless metal vines dancing madly, he only felt his body go numb and fear spread throughout his body. In front of him, there were countless giant trees. The vines of each tree were filled with a metallic texture. Walalala. When they were dancing in the air, the vines could even transform into various weapons from time to time. A long spear. It was a sharp long blade. A sharp sword. Other than the giant tree. On the ground, there were also different kinds of grass. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. No, it definitely couldn't be described as grass. Each of the grass looked like a sharp metal needle that could pierce through anything. The most terrifying thing was that the grass could also dance freely. Living metallic plants, such a huge number? It's too fearsome. Any one of these monsters could easily destroy Earth. Luo Feng's voice was trembling. His body didn't dare to make any extra movements. The fear of death completely enveloped him. He had no doubt that if he dared to move, he would be cut into pieces by these metal plants in an instant. He would die in less than 0.1 seconds. Countless living plants, all eager to try and approach Luo Feng. Ice cold. Killing intent. All sorts of cold and sinister auras were being emitted from the living plants. However, just as Luo Feng's fear reached its peak, a spatial vortex appeared in front of him. After seeing the whirlpool, Luo Feng's eyes finally showed some hope. He thought that he could leave this terrifying place, but in the next second, he realized that the whirlpool space was not meant to send him away. Instead, Yi Bei, who had transformed into a small black python, gradually appeared in the vortex and finally coiled up in front of him. When Yi Bei appeared, the living plants that had been dancing wildly suddenly quieted down, not daring to make any more sounds. The gloomy and cold aura in the air was completely retracted, not daring to spread in the slightest. The beast god civilization's battleship had exploded here, allowing all the living plants to once again absorb a vast amount of power. And now they had all evolved again. How is it? Isn't this place interesting? That's right. These metal plants all belong to me. This place can be considered my back garden. Yi Bei said slowly after he appeared. Snake God, what do you want from me? As long as I know, I will definitely answer. Luo Feng was a smart man. Although he wanted to figure out the situation here a million times, he no longer dared to be arrogant after recognizing Yi Bei's identity. Instead, he lowered his head and asked in a trembling voice, "What's wrong?" End quote. "First, be my servant and work for me from now on." End quote. Yi Bei didn't beat around the bush, and he immediately went straight to the point. End quote. Second, humans can't become as strong as you. A low-level creature's body determines the potential for evolution. Tell me, how did you open your genetic lock? Upon hearing this, Luo Feng, who had just calmed down a little, shuddered and retreated abruptly. He stared at Yi Bei in disbelief. You think I came to find you alone because you're strong? Do I really want to take you in as a servant? Doomsday City and the entire Earth are all within my domain. Everything is under my surveillance. However, you have obtained an incredible power under my surveillance. This is the most interesting thing, and it is also the reason why I came to find you alone. Chi. Yi Bei stuck out his tongue and narrowed his eyes as he looked at Luo Feng calmly. He was 100% confident that this man would obediently tell him everything, because that was the choice of a smart person. Who? Sure enough, Luo Feng took a deep breath after understanding the situation. His face turned pale. End quote. I've opened 3 of my genetic chains, but I don't know why. When I first came to Doomsday City, I accidentally awakened a strange power. I call it the power of a warrior. At the same time, my mind power has been strengthened several times. By constantly devouring prey, my body can continue to grow stronger. I don't know to what extent I can reach. End quote. Luo Feng said, his eyes blank. As he said this, Yi Bei kept staring into this guy's eyes. She quickly confirmed that he wasn't lying. However, even though he was certain, Yi Bei continued to stare at it. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. End quote. Very interesting. End quote. Yi Bei only shifted his gaze away when Luo Feng's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He then continued to say slowly, end quote, so many civilizations are eyeing Earth. It's not as simple as the so-called resources. Even some of the most popular novels of human civilization have secretly implanted some information, end quote. Snake God, what is the meaning of this? Luo Feng didn't understand, his eyes filled with confusion. Bang, bang. However, in the next second, Yi Bei didn't hold back at all. His curled-up body moved slightly, and he flicked his tail, which seemed to inadvertently hit Luo Feng. Pada. The latter didn't even have time to react. He felt as if his body had been struck by a force that was beyond his knowledge. In the next second, his consciousness dissipated. On Yi Bei's side, Luo Feng's body exploded in midair after being hit, turning into a cloud of blood mist. He died completely, and was immediately absorbed by the living metal plants around him. End quote. System, are you prepared to explain what is going on? Chi. After killing Luo Feng, Yi Bei immediately asked the system in his mind. There are too many races in the universe. There are those that can evolve infinitely, those that have the technology to destroy the universe, and those that can see the future. There are even the legendary immortal cultivators. Host, you've established the snake civilization for so long, and you already have the answer in your heart. The 3-body civilization is a very good proof. However, just now, user killed a person, which is equivalent to destroying the foundation of a civilization, killing it in its cradle. The system replied. These words suddenly sounded quite profound. But after Yi Bei heard this, he immediately understood the meaning behind it. Since Luo Feng exists, then Xiao Yin, Tang San, Shi Hao, Wang Ba, Brits, Vajra, and countless other main characters that might appear, all of them exist, whether it's humans, beasts, or machines. Even ion life forms or silicon-based life forms. eBay flicked his tongue. Even he found it unbelievable when he said this. Truth and falsehood are mixed together. Where there is light, there is darkness. Your judgment is normal, but it's not entirely correct. Then, I know. When he said this, eBay's voice was particularly cold. This conversation had opened up a window of his knowledge. At the same time, it also caused his killing intent to spread endlessly. No matter what, eBay, was the only protagonist. All other life forms, those hidden protagonists of the universe, would die once they encountered him. After getting the answer he wanted, eBay immediately left the Forest of Death. When he returned to Doomsday City, he immediately issued an earth-shattering order through his identity as the Snake God. Tang San, Shi Hao, Xiaoyan, Wang Ba. A long list of names was directly announced by him. Regardless of whether it was humans or other races, as long as they had these names, they would all be secretly killed. In a moment, there were turbulent undercurrents within the Snake tribe civilization. But in the universe, read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Countless pairs of eyes were shocked by the massacre. They had never thought that the pawns they had arranged would all be killed. This was completely inconsistent with the information they had predicted. The massacre continued. Some of the races in the depths of the universe finally couldn't sit still, especially the three-body civilization. That huge planet had already broken away from the restraints of the centaurs and entered the Milky Way. Doomsday City, Eastern Sea City. Blood Moon crouched down beside eBay, her voice trembling slightly. King, in this recent period of time, all of the living beings in the world called Xiaoyan, Shi Hao, Tang San, have already been completely slaughtered. I guarantee that there will no longer be any living beings with such names. As she said this, Blood Moon glanced at eBay with lingering fear. He could not understand. Why would anyone with such a name be killed? At the same time, he thought to himself that it would be best if he didn't name his race in the future. End quote. Well done. This list will continue to increase in the future. Once you are discovered, kill immediately. Don't leave anything behind. End quote. eBay's voice was cold. At this moment, the Blood Moon finally could not hold it in anymore. End quote. King, why are you doing this? Buzz. His cold gaze landed on Blood Moon without any restraint. The latter's body suddenly trembled, knowing that he had said the wrong thing. He hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to ask again. Being weak is a mistake. End quote. If you've killed him, then so be it. In the future, you don't have to ask me about such things. Just follow my orders. End quote. eBay said, not giving any explanation. Yes. The Blood Moon quickly replied. In order to change the topic, he immediately continued. End quote. Your Majesty, we've made a breakthrough in our research on wormholes. We've built 14 small wormholes in the solar system that allow us to travel freely between Mars, Jupiter, Mercury, the Moon, and so on. We're no longer short of basic energy. In addition, we're trying to build complete biological systems on those planets and modify them through scientific means. For example, we'll put a large number of light filters in space, block the intense sunlight, and turn the planets into a suitable temperature for living beings. Then, we will replenish their water sources. End quote. Have any planets been modified? eBay said. Blood Moon replied, of course. The queen ant has successfully moved to the moon, and more than 99% of the ant tribe have left Earth to live on the moon. They no longer reproduce on Earth. Their survival skills are extremely strong, and they build a base more than 10,000 meters underground. Not bad. eBay nodded slightly. With the development of technology, the moon was the first to be conquered. eBay wasn't surprised by this at all. She saw that eBay wasn't very interested. Blood Moon's heart skipped a beat. End quote. King, other than that, we've started to develop a large wormhole. So far, we've created thousands of space shards. The only pity is that we still can't lock onto the exact location of the centaurs. I'm worried that the wormholes we're building will enter space vortexes and black holes. After all, there are too many dangers in space. End quote. After hearing this, eBay, who was still coiled up, finally felt a little interested. A large wormhole could already be created, which meant that they could attack the three-body civilization at any time. In that case, he would be one step closer to obtaining the bloodline of a flood dragon. Coordinates? Are there any in the beast god civilization? And quote, King, no civilization will send out their true coordinates. That is the cruelest blow to their own civilization. Although the tri-body civilization has been in contact with the beast god civilization countless times, they have never exposed their location. If we want to find them, we'll have to send a battleship to the Centaur constellation to look for them. But the size of a constellation is unimaginable. As she said this, Blood Moon lowered her head even further, afraid that she would make Yi Bei unhappy. But Blood Moon had just finished speaking. Tap, 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 tap. A series of hurried footsteps could be heard. My king, something big has happened, my king. The footsteps were accompanied by a series of shouts. The voice came from Caesar. Upon hearing this voice, Blood Moon heaved a sigh of relief. At least, Caesar's appearance meant that they were completely free. They could find a reason and leave quickly. What is it? Buzz. Yi Bei looked at Caesar in surprise, his voice cold. As the king's apostle, Caesar had a very transcendent position in the snake tribe civilization. Something that could make him so nervous was naturally not simple. And quote, King, I've received a signal from the Milky Way, and it's through a special particle speed method. According to my observations, there's a planet twice the size of Earth, and it's heading toward the solar system at a speed that surpasses the speed of particles, end quote. And NBSB, whoosh. As he spoke, the hideous scar on Caesar's face popped up, and his eyes were full of fear. Perhaps Yi Bei was very strong. Perhaps the snake civilization was very powerful. But they were now facing a superplanet twice the size of Earth. Furthermore, he was advancing at a speed that exceeded the speed of particles. If he really entered the solar system, all the planets here would be reduced to dust under the impact of such a high-speed attack. No matter how strong Yi Bei was, there was no way he could survive in the face of such overwhelming power. A planet twice the size of Earth? Faster than light speed? How is this possible? At this speed, wouldn't it burn up when it's rubbed by the atmosphere in space? Blood Moon, who was at the side, could not hold it in any longer. He cried out in alarm, and an inexplicable fear churned in his heart. Send me all the information you've received. Yi Bei's eyes narrowed. After listening to the report, his intuition told him that this time, he had really encountered a huge problem. At this very moment, in the depths of the universe, in the Milky Way, a planet was advancing at an unbelievable speed. There were too many planets in the galaxy to count. However, this planet that was moving at high speed was able to avoid all the space meteorites perfectly in the process of moving forward. It could even change its direction at will. We've entered the Milky Way and arrived at Earth's galaxy. End quote. With our current speed, we'll successfully reach the solar system in 10 Earth days at most, end quote. End quote. We've captured some signals that were once released by Earth. Do you want to interpret them? Yes. Deciphering. Progress 50%. 100%. What's the message? Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. End quote. You're from an alien planet. Before entering the solar system, if there's any life on it, please take a detour and leave. If there's no life, we'll launch a destructive attack. End quote. Don't worry about them. At the same time, disrupt the signal on Earth at 100 times the speed of light and control the entire Earth's communication channel. Since they have entered the Milky Way, they will definitely not be able to escape. It's a good time to have a good talk with those creatures. Yes. Buzz. Buzz. As the voice fell, strange characters appeared on the light screen surrounding the planet's outer wall. A few seconds later, an explosive wave was launched from the planet. Its speed really reached 100 times the speed of light, and it was heading straight for Earth, the Human Federation. As the wormhole opened, the humans living on Earth also started to migrate. In particular, some of the more advanced ones were full of yearning for life on Mars. In the former capital of China, after the establishment of the Federation, this place, along with the former Moscow in Russia, gradually became the most prosperous city where humans gathered. All sorts of high-tech products, an endless supply of living resources. Every minute and every second, They were being transported to these two cities. In just a few years, all humans had felt a tremendous change. At the top of a skyscraper, walalala, there was the sound of water splashing. Yes, it was an open-air swimming pool built on the top of the building. At this moment, a group of young people was having a huge party. Pank, I heard you went to Mars through a wormhole. How did it feel? Are there really aliens there? The one who spoke was a beautiful woman. Her skin was as fair as jade, and her eyes looked extremely pure. Her wet hair draped over her shoulders, and her jade-like legs swayed gently in the sky-blue water. She was extremely alluring. End quote. I've indeed found some ruins left behind by the Martian civilization. However, there are no living creatures on it. You must know that Mars has now become the core migration area for us humans. Millions of square meters of land have been transformed into habitable areas. A large number of green plants have become self-sufficient. What do you think? Ruin, do you want to go and take a look? The man named Pank replied with a faint smile. Walalala. In the swimming pool, a man and a woman were moving in parallel. Pank's body was full of muscles. He had short hair, a sharp face, and his muscles were full of explosiveness and lines. After the evolution potion became common, all humans had undergone extremely obvious changes. Those ugly men and women were basically rare to see. Walking on the streets, looking around, all you could see were energetic, handsome men and beautiful women. End quote. Yes, my father went to Mars a month ago. Not long ago, he also sent a message back, telling me to go there soon. I heard that the minerals on Mars can make one's body stronger. End quote. The woman continued. In fact, there were many similar conversations at this party. Although the moon has been occupied by the ant tribe, they have opened up a tourist channel. Beauty, how about we go to the moon for a tour when we have time? I heard that the Earth is very beautiful when you look at it from the moon. Really? Of course. Well, I love you so much. The party was basically all about immigration or travel. If such a conversation had happened in human civilization a few years ago, they would definitely have been sent to a mental hospital. However, it was now the most common topic in the snake tribe civilization. The lives of the various races were getting more and more harmonious. Traveling to an alien planet was no different from going to a neighboring city. This was the terrifying change brought about by the development of technology. But it was in this peaceful and uneventful environment where every day was filled with anticipation and hope. In the party, suddenly, a girl screamed loudly. The girl was watching the latest news on her watch, but the image on the screen changed immediately. In its place was a very ferocious-looking creature. This creature had 3 eyes and a round body that was grayish-black in color. Countless tentacles were wriggling on its surface, and each tentacle had something similar to a mouth, looking extremely disgusting. This appearance, even in a civilization full of mutant creatures, it was terrifying. What happened? What's going on? What's wrong, Lena? As the beautiful woman screamed, the young people who were talking about the interstellar trip all looked at her curiously. Many men even set up tents down there, feeling that Lena's scream was very tempting. As for Lena, she was frightened by the monster in the projection, but she quickly calmed down. End quote. B** starred, this is definitely some kind of prank. With the integration of the major races, there will always be some races that like to do such disgusting things. How perverted. End quote. Lena cursed angrily and reached out to turn off the projection. However, at this moment, the atmosphere in the party suddenly became strange. End quote. That's not right. I was reading a novel just now. Why did such a disgusting thing appear in it? A man with bare arms sitting on a beach chair jumped up. As a technician, his eyes were wide open. When he spoke, his voice was loud. Damn it, has my intelligent wristwatch been hacked? Who would dare to do such a thing? Isn't he afraid that the snake god will kill him? Someone else said. 5 people. 10. 20. The humans who didn't use wristwatches at first seemed to have thought of something and took out their wristwatches one after another. Who? Then, the originally cheerful scene became extremely quiet. And NBSB, whoosh whoosh. Only the sound of people breathing heavily could be heard. End quote. This is an intelligent wristwatch, and it uses the most advanced intelligent life center as the main control. Since the research began, no technology has ever been able to break through it. and now we're all poisoned? This monster should be the virus, right? It reminds me of the panda burning incense from a long time ago. Mm. His voice was a little soft. While these young people were talking, they all had a creepy feeling in their hearts, as if they had a premonition that something big was going to happen. In fact, while the young people were shocked that their wristwatches had been hacked, the entire Earth, the entire civilization of the snake tribe, was in an uproar. It was not just the watch. Instead, all the electrical devices that could transmit information had been dominated by the monster. Fortunately, the monster knew its limits and did not destroy the core of the intelligence system. It only changed the display. However, even so, at this moment, a large number of disasters continued to appear on Earth. Bastard, what happened? End quote. All the monitors and projections of the electronic equipment are malfunctioning. End quote. Damn it. All of them in the world? It should be. End quote. Inform His Excellency Caesar and the Snake God. End quote. End quote. There's no need to inform them. The whole world is in this state. They must have known about it. End quote. Such voices kept appearing among the higher-ups of the major races. In fact, read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Other than Earth, the Moon, Mars, Jupiter. In the solar system, all communications had been violently cut off and tampered with by the three-body civilization. All living beings had received this message. Just as the countless creatures were wondering what was happening, the disgusting monster finally spoke. Doomsday City, Eastern Sea City. Wang Wan, Golden Lion, Caesar, Blood Moon, and Guiyue the Five Apostles were all standing guard beside Yi Bei. As for the Ant Queen, because she had migrated to the moon, she couldn't return at this time. End quote. My king, it must be the tri-body civilization. They came too quickly, just like the beast god civilization. They invaded our information network with unequal technology. If I'm not wrong, they're going to start their speech. End quote. Caesar gritted his teeth and said angrily, a powerful civilization would usually have two ways to deal with a weak civilization. First, he could either crush them, burn them, kill them, and plunder them. He could take everything but a needle and a thread. The second was to brainwash and threaten the living beings within by controlling the terminal that transmitted all information, capturing as many prisoners as possible before gradually corrupting them, like boiling the frog in warm water. It was obvious. The three-body civilization was planning to use the second method on Earth. End quote. It's really troublesome that Earth's position has been exposed. If possible, we should get the Earth out of orbit. That way, no civilization will be able to track us. The Golden Lion roared. End quote. That's too unrealistic. However, it's strange. It seems like the tri-body civilization threw a planet over. Why didn't they use wormholes to travel over, but instead used this space movement method? Wang Wen stuck out his tongue, expressing his confusion. Buzz. Buzz. At that moment, Yi Bei, who was crouching next to her, made a sizzling sound when his huge body moved slightly. End quote. It takes a long time to build a wormhole. Even if the tri-body civilization's technology is very powerful, it's no exception. Also, what's flying in space might not be a planet. It could be a battleship the size of a planet, or it could be a giant life form. End quote. Yi Bei's voice wasn't very loud. However, after he finished his sentence, all the apostles were stunned. In particular, Yi Bei's last sentence made their bodies tremble involuntarily. A creature that was twice the size of Earth? If it really was a living creature, how terrifying would it be? In the eyes of that creature, how small were humans? That was impossible. That kind of thing was absolutely impossible. It was even more impossible for such a huge life form to exist. Golden Lion, Wang Wan, Blood Moon, and Caesar all had the same thought in their minds. Just as they were mulling over it, the information terminal controlled by the three-body civilization finally changed. The ugly tentacle-covered monster slowly opened its mouth and spoke. The sound was obviously processed with high technology. It could be understood by every living thing on Earth. To all the creatures from the solar system. And quote, I'm happy to tell you, in the future, you will be controlled by the three-body civilization. We have unprecedented technology, endless treasures, endless food resources, and we abide by the universal rules of peace, freedom, and cooperation. Please believe that we come with a friendly attitude, end quote. It was fine if the creature didn't speak. The moment he opened his mouth, he had shamelessly blurted out such words. Uh, Countless creatures were stunned when they heard this. In the snake civilization, the concept of the tri-body civilization had been spread everywhere, and almost all creatures knew that there were countless civilizations in the universe. But those creatures had other thoughts in their minds. For example, all life in the universe loved peace, and no living creature would actively provoke them. For example, the snake civilization was very powerful, and any civilization that tried to provoke them would not have a good ending. It was just like the beast god civilization, where so many fleets were all destroyed without mercy. This logic was very similar to how people in major countries felt good about their own countries in the era of human civilization. Back then, countless people in China felt that China was the second largest country in the world, and it had 5,000 years of culture. At that time, the Bangziguo country felt that the entire universe was created by them. Back then, North Korea was able to send humans to the sun to survive. At that time, America thought that I was the best in the world. So, as soon as the three-bodied civilization's words came out, countless creatures on the snake civilization's side reacted, and the commotion instantly started. End quote. What kind of joke is this? Is this alien monster here to make a joke? End quote. Haha. There are more idiots like the beast god civilization. The snake god will show them how powerful they are. End quote. What do you take our snake tribe civilization for? Trash from the universe. Peace, friendliness, freedom. You're talking nonsense. Isn't it just that his technique is a little more impressive? Why are you acting cool? Idiot, we won't surrender even if we die. None of the creatures surrendered. On the contrary, the taunting voices gathered into waves of majestic power and were transmitted back to the rapidly flying planet through the screens after being converted by 100 times the speed of light. Whoosh. In the depths of the universe. After the three-body star received the feedback, the entire planet trembled slightly. His entire body released a cold aura. It was a little angry. End quote. In 10 days, I will arrive at the solar system. I believe that in this period of time, the higher-ups of your civilization will spread the news about my strength. There is no doubt about it. I hope that when you see my appearance, you can still say such words. End quote. His voice was hoarse, cold, and even carried a bit of sarcasm and contempt. Thinking about it, it made sense. In the eyes of the three-body civilization, the creatures in the solar system were like a human and a mosquito. As long as the human was willing and slightly serious, he could instantly turn the mosquito into meat paste. The tri-body civilization had taken the initiative to negotiate with the snake race civilization. It would be strange if they were not angry after being looked down upon. In the video, in the projection, after the voice finished, the scene finally changed. However, it did not return to its original state. Instead, the scene had changed. It was a boundless starry sky. Profound. Ice cold. There were no signs of life. However, a huge planet was moving forward at an unbelievable speed. This planet's movements were agile. There was also a layer of light covering the surface, and all sorts of mysterious runes kept jumping on it. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Even through the screen, countless creatures could feel a deep fear when they saw this. What is this? End quote. Don't tell me that the three-body civilization sent such a planet? Are there any experts who can calculate the mass of this planet? Some of the more intelligent creatures finally noticed the abnormality. King, that monster is challenging us. Roar. Golden Lion growled, but when he said this, it was obvious that he didn't have enough confidence. They're actually live streaming the invasion of the solar system. Damn it. This planet, could it really be a giant life form? From this scene, his entire body is wrapped in a layer of light, and there are some patterns on it, but we have no way to analyze it. Caesar gritted his teeth. The light film covers the true situation of the planet, and you can't see anything from the surface. Guyu said with a slight frown. End quote. I think that the next thing we need to do is to immediately decipher the text on the light film, understand its meaning, and then think of a way to stop him from entering the solar system. End quote. Chi. Wangwen flicked out his tongue. At this time, he brought up a very important piece of information. Other than Yi Bei, In fact, the leaders of the major races on Earth had all taken action. Area 51. The three-body civilization. It must be them. But we know too little about them. Even the information from the beast god civilization is limited. Morpheus exclaimed as he watched the planet rapidly move forward on the screen. End quote. Mayor, with your intelligence, can you roughly analyze what the three-body civilization is? Neo couldn't help it. Behind them was a large group of the greatest scientists in human history. End quote. Planets are moving rapidly in the universe, faster than the speed of light. To be honest, this is really unbelievable. My theory of relativity back then was simply laughable when it was really put to use. End quote. The curly-haired Einstein shook his head as he spoke, his body trembling slightly. The theory of relativity? I still feel that my mechanics is all nonsense. At the side, Newton mocked himself without holding back. This is too illogical. No, maybe this is the truth. We just knew too little before. Let's continue. Science is really a magical thing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. These scientists discussed in low voices, and their voices converged into a buzzing sound. But Morpheus didn't seem to care. After hearing Neo's question, he didn't remain silent, but boldly stated his own guess. That planet can move nimbly through the universe, ensuring that it won't hit any meteorites. Other than that, its speed is faster than light. Therefore, there are only two possibilities. This fellow is a living being, or there is something controlling him in the core area. Neo didn't understand. At this moment, Trinina's eyes were filled with panic. End quote. No matter which method he used, it's enough to show how powerful he is. If this thing really enters the solar system, will the snake god be his match? Snake god? Just now, Morpheus and Neo's eyes were filled with fear. However, after hearing about the snake god, their eyes instantly regained their determination. I believe in the serpent god. Although the three-body civilization is very strong, he's definitely not the snake god's match. He'll definitely end up in a terrible state, said Morpheus. When he said this, his voice was extremely decisive. In the solar system, on the various planets, the leaders of the various races were discussing nonstop. At the same time, the planet that was rapidly flying towards the solar system also reported the situation here to the centaurs at the fastest speed. Centaurs. In that universe, countless huge planets were floating. We just received a message. Earth has refused to surrender. According to the exploration of the Milky Way, we found that the creatures on Earth have mastered simple wormhole technology and space jump technology. Their self-learning ability is very strong, and their physical fitness has improved very quickly. If they are allowed to continue developing, they will pose a threat to us one day. A hoarse voice resounded among the planets. It's just dealing with a low-leveled civilization. Why would we need to waste so much time? We can just destroy it. Immediately, another voice was heard. Earth is different. That planet is being watched by a higher-level civilization, and they have made some prophecies about it. If we destroy it, it may anger the hidden civilization. End quote. You don't have to worry about this at all. As long as we don't expose our location, there won't be any problems. Also, everyone, have you all forgotten that we are the tri-body civilization? We are a planet. So what if there are civilizations of a higher level than us? As long as they can't lock onto our location, they won't be a threat. End quote. So, end quote, let's just destroy it. There's no need to discuss. Let the first three-body to go over there kill the solar system. End quote. Dimension reduction strike? That's pretty much the case. Then it's decided. The conversation ended. Fortunately, the conversation here did not reach the solar system. Otherwise, after Yibei learned of the fate of the entire solar system and the tri-body civilization's decision so easily, his killing intent would probably reach its peak. The Milky Way and NBSB, whoosh whoosh whoosh. The star of the three bodies was moving forward in the universe. End quote. You're welcome. Just smash the entire solar system into a meat pie. End quote. After receiving this piece of information, more characters appeared on the planet's surface. Yes. The first was a quick response. Then, this guy reported to the Snake Tribe civilization at the first opportunity, and his attitude was extremely arrogant. There was no longer any reason to declare freedom and peace like before. All ants. From now on, run for your lives. End quote. In 10 days, I'll launch a dimensional attack on the entire solar system. Well, if you don't understand this concept, you can go and check the data. The general meaning is, with a single slap, I will smash your entire solar system into pieces. No living being will be able to survive. After leaving behind these words, this guy's killing intent skyrocketed. After making up his mind, he did not continue to livestream. He immediately cut off the signal and sped up again, rushing towards the solar system. And in the solar system, the various races. After hearing those words, countless creatures were stunned again. Dimension reduction strike? This concept, as an intelligent life form, was basically all understandable. But read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Could the three-body civilization really use such a blow? Were they that strong? With a suspicious attitude. However, at this moment, a post suddenly appeared on the SS website. It was about the tri-body civilization. Immediately after, the entire snake tribe civilization was in an uproar because of this post. To the word strike. It instantly became the top trending topic on the SS website. Earth, in a hidden underground base. A monster with a horse's head and a human's body was sitting in front of a laptop left behind by human civilization. Pa pa pa. His fingers were very nimble. He was typing on the computer. Those pitch-black eyes were filled with the light of wisdom. Pa pa. As he continued to type, lines of text began to appear on the computer. The content was as follows. Title: Detailed decryption of the tri-body civilization, showing you the true strength of a level 10 civilization. Content: The tri-body civilization was located in the Centaur constellation. Their exact location was unknown because their civilization was a trinity. Their coordinates could move freely within the entire Centaur constellation and change. It was impossible to lock onto them unless the entire Centaur constellation was destroyed. In addition, the tri-body civilization was not a carbon-based life form. They were the typical silicon-based life forms. The planet that was moving at high speed in the universe that everyone had seen earlier was just one of the life forms in the tri-body civilization. And NBSB, you didn't see it wrong. Their bodies were that huge. If one had to describe it, the three-body life that was flying towards the solar system was about twice the size of Earth. Furthermore, this guy's existence was very weak even in the entire tri-body civilization. In other words, there were countless life forms stronger than him on the Centaurs. In addition, the tri-body civilization was not the kind of civilization that relied on their size to win. Their civilization and technology were extremely advanced. Their knowledge was inherited. It was simple. Any young three-body life form would automatically copy all the knowledge learned by its predecessors. Then, in the following days, the life form would constantly think, evolve, improve, and improve itself. The layer of light on their bodies was actually their intelligent control platform. If the layer of light was broken, one could easily see that the planet was full of crazily waving tentacles. It was the tentacles that controlled the AI system. As for the dimensional reduction attack that the monster had mentioned, it wasn't hard to understand. The three-body life form was simply too big. Once that behemoth enters the solar system, it can turn the entire solar system into a meat pie with a wave of its hand. Just like how humans kill flies. This is a dimension reduction attack. That was all the content of the post. In fact, the logic of this post wasn't very clear, and it was written very casually. However, while the entire snake civilization was shocked by the three-body civilization, the appearance of this post instantly stirred up countless discussions. Three-body life forms, each of them a planet? Don't talk nonsense. I've read that novel before. The life forms in it are definitely about the size of humans. There were biology comments. However, it was immediately rebuked by other comments. And quote, even novels can be taken seriously. Don't be silly. Those are some conspiracies of civilizations. The information deliberately leaked cannot be true. But to the guy who posted this, I only have two words: stupid. Self-righteous fellow. That's a very reasonable analysis, but I still want to say, idiot. Wah. Up. I really admire you. You're so handsome. Have you been to the Centaurs? How do you know them so well? Also, could you be a spy sent by them? Oh, no. The traitors who betrayed them. Silicon-based life form? Why can't I understand anything at all? There's a good saying that if you don't study hard, you won't even be able to understand the writing of others. That's the kind of person upstairs. End quote. I support the OP. Being stupid isn't shameful. What's shameful is coming out to tell everyone that you're stupid. End quote. The post exploded. Countless people who paid attention to the three-body civilization rushed into this post. In less than a minute, there were more than 200,000 curses and more than 1 million clicks. But in the underground shelter, after the horse-headed monster posted and read the comments, he didn't care about the curses at all. A strange color flashed in his dark eyes. End quote. Tri-body civilization. You gave us wormholes and have been manipulating the creatures in this universe from behind the scenes, treating us as your toys. I'm afraid that no matter how intelligent you are, you would never have thought that over the years, countless civilizations that have been toyed with by you have been trying their best to find information on you. End quote. End quote. As for the snake civilization, this is all I can do to help you. I hope you won't let me down. End quote. Huh. After saying this, the guy turned off the computer with a bang. Then, he leaned back in his seat and fell into a daze. On the internet, with this post as the start, countless creatures were discussing frantically. However, their discussions were completely based on speculation. They had analyzed the three-body civilization as various terrifying forces without much evidence. There were many voices on the internet. But when various posts appeared, in Area 51, Morpheus's attention was completely focused on the post by the horse-headed creature. As an intelligent life form, coupled with the capacity of a human's brain, he could read all the information on the internet at any time he wanted. Perhaps many creatures would think that the post was nonsense, but Morpheus definitely did not agree. First of all, silicon-based life. This was something that he agreed with. Secondly, the concept of planetary life was definitely not something that could be casually thought of. Furthermore, the post's understanding of the three-body civilization might seem ridiculous, but if one analyzed it carefully, they would realize that many things were very logical. Neo, did you find out the IP address of the person who posted the thread? Morpheus' expression was serious, and his voice was cold. End quote. Mayor, that person is an expert. He used at least 100 jumping boards to make this post. All his information is fake information copied from the internet. There is no way to find out his true identity. End quote. Neo wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. It's really like this. However, Morpheus's eyes lit up when he heard this. His intuition told him that the authenticity of the post had more than doubled. Thinking of this, Morpheus immediately said, end quote, organize the contents of this post immediately and send it to the snake god for Caesar and the others to see. This is the only hope for our District 51 to find a foothold in the snake civilization. If we defeat the three-bodied civilization this time, our status will definitely rise. End quote. Yes.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.